Welcome to the Best 5 Minute Wine Podcast with Forrest Kelly.
I respect them a lot, and I think they're fascinating people, and they have fascinating stories, and I'm storytelling. The typical interview, as I'd like to think no interview is typical, but we cover where did you come from? What was the importance of food in your life? How did you decide that you wanted to do it for a living? And what's your path? Where'd you go? What'd you do? What'd you learn at each stop? What are you cooking today? What do you think you'll be cooking tomorrow? What do Americans like to eat? What's your view on the current status of culinary in America?
Was there any of the chefs or any of them wine focused in your library?
I'll give you one good example. Bobby Stuckey, who is a master sommelier and co-owner of Frosca in Boulder, Colorado, which was just named the 2025 James Beard Outstanding Restaurant in America. He is a huge wine person. He's a master sommelier. That says everything you need to know. His restaurant is the food of a smaller region in Italy that is basically in the shadow of the Alps. And he was explaining to me just how wonderful the wines are from that area. And I've never, it's not an area that I was familiar with. So that's on my to-do list. Secondarily, he went into great detail, about what, first of all, we addressed the issue of wine fear. The average American is terrified to go to a restaurant and try to order wine. And I would say that the restaurant industry has to some extent encouraged that so that they can sell you a $20 bottle for $100. But Bobby's point of view is ask. Don't be afraid to exhibit a lack of knowledge. Rely on the som. And give him an honest question. Say, look, you got a whole lot of stuff here for $100. What do you got for 40 that might do for me what I'm looking for? And then the Psalm's question is, well, what are you looking for? I think taking the fear away from wine is some restaurants do it, some don't. But I think that's essential. And I don't know why, but wine has, as opposed to a foodstuff, an enjoyable product to improve a meal, it's perceived by the public totally as a snob item. And as I say, few people know a whole lot about it. And I'm certainly no expert, but I'm not afraid to ask when I'm dining out.
Yeah.
And there's so much fascinating history. I mean, the fact that all the wines we think are better from France came from cuttings sent from the States back when there was a huge blight that destroyed the vineyards of France.
When you sit down with your wife to a nice meal, what are you serving?
It depends. It depends what I'm serving. I mean, our tastes in wine run pretty classically American. We're looking for big flavor. And I hate to get so stereotypical because the subtleties are the subtleties, and red and white don't necessarily have to go with what you think they have to go with. But traditionally, if I'm doing red meat, I'm looking for a Cab or a Syrah or a Chianti. And if we're in the world of seafood, I tend to look for a chard, although we diverge a bit there because I like buttery and oaky, and my wife likes a thinner flavor. I don't like, and I guess if I were an onophile, I'd sneer at myself for this, but I don't like thin wine. I hate to be Paul Giamatti from Sideways, but in my world, nobody drinks Merlot. Yeah, and by the way, I'm a huge fan of two other categories. I love champagne. I'm certainly not a snob in terms of it has to be actual champagne from France. I mean, my New Year's go-to is J, which no one will tell you is a great champagne, but in my mind is great value for the dollar. Look, I lived in Europe for years. I have enjoyed many a good bottle of champagne, although there too, branding in America seems to beat taste. You're not going to convince me that Cristal is particularly the top of anyone's heap, but since famous people want to overpay for it when they're seen at a table somewhere, it's It's Cristal. I've had many other. Look, Perrier Jouet has always, or the Grand Dame, both of those have always made me very happy. But I also like a sweet dessert wine. I mean, we were at a chef's tasting counter at a high-end restaurant, bizarrely enough associated with Disneyland in California, where I was shooting the special. They offered Chateau de Chem as a dessert wine, and I don't know the vintage, but it was a couple $100 a bottle, I'm sure, retail. And our daughter at the time was 14. I've always been pretty open-minded about stuff like this. She was going to get a taste, and when the server came up, I said, "Could I have a third glass, please?" He said, "Yeah, but when it's time to pour, I'll leave you the bottle and I'll walk away." So we poured my daughter, I guess she was like 15, a glass of Chateau de Chem. And from that point on, it became her favorite wine. It's like, it's birthday dinner. What do you want? I want Chateau de Chem. Geez, honey, it's $200,
The best 5-minute wine podcast.
Don't forget my favorite part.
Please like and follow. Oh.